Okay, we're gonna have this monitor in the way, aren't we? That's better, right? Can't see the monitor anymore. Everything level, everything good. Okay. Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. I have had possibly the craziest 4 days of maybe my entire life. I don't know, maybe that's an exaggeration, but this is YouTube and exaggeration is sort of par for the course, so we'll just go with it. As some of you may have heard, I was invited by NIS America to come to Anime Expo 2024 in sunny Los Angeles and co-host a panel on JRPGs with a couple of very awesome guys. We'll get into it in a little bit. And it was fantastic. Now, I am home and more or less decompressed and about as exhausted as I can possibly be. Will probably be just absolutely sick in the next few days from being in close proximity to 100,000 people for 4 days straight. But, you know, you take the good, you take the bad. And regardless, I'd say it's worth it. You know, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I ever would have thought that JRPGs would have such a significant presence at a straight up anime convention. I mean, having been there and seen it and kind of thinking in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense. There's a ton of crossover in fan bases there, but for some reason I just didn't associate anime conventions with JRPGs, and that was, I guess, silly of me because there was an enormous JRPG presence there. So many of the big JRPG companies had booths and were selling things, and there was so much art and just amazing stuff from a bunch of creators, and it just like, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. This video is maybe part of me trying to wrap my brain around it. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of tell you about the experience of going to Anime Expo from the perspective of a JRPG guy. Now, I also love anime, right? I've been an anime fan since I was, I don't know, 13, 14, whenever Toonami became a thing. I've loved anime. It's been one of my primary sources of entertainment. But I don't know if I ever felt like I was a big enough anime fan to go to an Anime Expo. But it seems like they really cater to a wide variety of different audience types. So I think regardless of your level of interest in anime and JRPGs, it's still a worthwhile experience to go and be there and see everything because there's just so much across the spectrum for every level of fandom, basically. Now, before we dive in any further, if you would do me a favor, if you like this video, would you please consider clicking the like button? It helps so much. I don't know how YouTube works exactly, but I've been told on good authority that the like button plays a significant role in the video reaching new people, so that would just be fantastic if you could click like. If you do like this, don't lie. You know, if you hate it, you can dislike it or just ignore it. That's okay. But if you do like it, I'd appreciate it. And also, if you like the stuff that I do here, talking about JRPGs and all of that, if you would consider subscribing if you're not already, that would be awesome as well. Okay, anyway, Anime Expo. So, the travel. I live in the Chicago area, the Anime Expo is in Los Angeles, so I flew. Now, I don't often travel alone, and I've just found traveling alone to be a very strange experience. I'm used to having my wife there to talk to, and just being by myself was a little bit weird. So it was a little bit of a strange adventure, but it was fine. There were some weird smells on the airplane. I kept trying to identify who the smells were coming from, the people around me and the seats beside me. I was in the middle, of course. And I don't know, I couldn't identify the source, and it wasn't constant, so I don't know. That will remain a mystery, I guess. I would love to know who made those smells on the airplane. But once we landed, I got to experience the wonder of rideshare in Los Angeles. It's quite a bit different than in Chicago. At the airport, there's like a designated, I don't know, section where you go and there's cabs, and then there's a Lyft section and an Uber section and some other ones I haven't heard of. And it just seems like a really efficient way of going about it. And trying to take an Uber from O'Hare in Chicago was not a great experience. So this seems like a really smart way of doing it. But man, it was just great stepping off that plane and out of the airport into that Los Angeles summertime. Sunny California. The line for Uber is really, really long. Really long. Actually, it wasn't too hot immediately, but that did change as the weekend went on. So I took my Uber downtown to the Biltmore Hotel. I feel like it's impossible to say the Biltmore without putting on that like super affected British sort of accent. Nothing against the fine people at the Biltmore, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, if you can say the Biltmore, without saying it like that, then you're a better person than I am. But yeah, very lovely hotel. Got that kind of fancy feel, like, I don't know what luxury was considered in the 80s, I'm sure. And the room was fine, normal room. And I wasn't there for most of the time anyway, so it served its purpose and it was a good stay. So once I finally made my way to the convention center and met up with the NIS America rep who had my badge and everything, I made my way to the X Nordics panel. There I met Emily, aka Orbalology, who was gracious enough to save me a seat. She got there super early, so we were right up front row, and it was fantastic. Just being able to see Toshihiro Kondo, the president of Falcom, right there 10 feet away, talking about Ys, this series that has been around for basically as long as I have, maybe longer, I don't know. It's a very old video game series. So it's just, I don't know, it's just incredible to hear him talking about it. He played a demo, he played one of the bosses in front of us live, and he was sitting, his seat was probably 2 feet in front of Emily. So like we were right there watching him play the game. And it was just very cool, very fun, and just like relaxed environment. The crowd was super into it, and it was amazing. It was really, I guess, kind of reassuring to me to see the fan response, like the fact that these panels for Ys and Trails, and we'll get to more of those later, but that those panels were so packed with people. It's like, that's got to be good for NIS America to see, obviously good for Kondo to see, because he doesn't have as much, exposure to the American fan base, I'm sure. And it was cool for me to see too, as someone who loves these series and loves Falcom, like that they have this base of support that's super enthusiastic in the US, and it's just great. So after that panel, most of the convention was kind of closed. Some of the exhibitions were out, so we walked around and looked at some of those. But for the most part, it was kind of the end of the day, so we went to dinner. I ate too many ribs. I don't know. I didn't eat all day, and then I ate like a mountain of ribs, and I just don't advise it. Do what you want, but I don't know. Just learn from my mistakes. And then that was the end of day one. So day two, got up bright and early, like, I don't know, 9. Sue me, I was tired. 9 a.m., early enough, and got down to the convention center by about 10 after waiting in line for the shuttle bus for about an hour. There were so many people, so many people. Just like awesome cosplay too. Like I haven't mentioned the cosplay yet. Like probably 3 or 4 out of every 10 people were in cosplay, and just like amazing work. I've just never seen so much creativity and personal passion put into this sort of thing. Like having only been to like classic gaming conventions, you see like a small handful of people in cosplay at those sorts of things, but this was like a whole nother level. It was just intense, and it was really cool. Anyway, while we were waiting in line for the shuttle bus, somebody came up and just kind of cut. I was like the first one in line because I'd been there for an hour, and somebody just kind of came up and cut in front of, I don't know, probably 75, 80 people waiting in line. And I guess because we're all like shy, awkward folks, none of us said anything, and they just got away with it. I don't know, awkward dorks unite. So then I met with Emily and her friend Ellie to stand in line for the Trails Through Daybreak panel. And once again, just so cool to hear Kondo talk about the game. They announced that Daybreak 2 is coming early 2025, so I'm guessing probably like March-ish, maybe April. But just the fact that it's coming so soon means we have a real chance of catching up with the Japanese release finally. And I'm just looking forward to being able to theorize online about Trails. Like, I don't dare do it now because so many people in the Trails fan community have played the Japanese releases with fan subtitles, and that's totally fine. Like, you do you, go nuts, but I'm not gonna do that. So I don't want to put a theory out there and have somebody in the comments be like, well, actually, in Kuro no Kiseki 2 Crimson Sin, it was very clearly stated that, I don't want to have that happen. So I'm looking forward to potentially being able to theorize with everyone online about what's going to happen next. That will be cool. After the Trails Through Daybreak panel, we checked out Artist Alley, and I don't know how to convey to you the sheer madness of Artist Alley. It is just, it's like in a converted parking garage. So just imagine like just the wide open, expansive space of a giant parking garage. And then row after row after row of, like, I don't know that I could even see the end of it, like crazy. Like so many rows full of so much awesome art and like things like pins and scrolls and like Nintendo Switch base faceplate things, like just awesome stuff. And I wish that I could have gotten pictures of it. The pictures that I'm showing are from Anime Expo their official site or whatever, and they're probably from previous years. I don't know what years they're from. But just to give you a sense of, what this was like. And it's as busy as that all looks, it was even busier, I feel like, this year. It was just wall-to-wall people. I think we only made it through like 2 rows before we had to leave and make our way for the next Trails panel. I did end up purchasing a pom-pom enamel pin from Honkai Star Rail, and I love it. It's great. I wish that I could have bought more, but I was just so afraid of being trampled to death by thousands and thousands of people. Maybe next year I will be able to have a little bit more time to do some more in-depth shopping. Fingers crossed. So the second Trails panel of the day that afternoon was about just kind of Trails storytelling in general, with Kondo again there to kind of present his perspective on it as one of the original creators of the series, of the Trails series in particular, and just to hear his insights about little things and big things. Like, learned a little bit about the NPC character Anton, who shows up in just about every Trails game. Like, he's traveling around, and it's just really funny to hear, like, apparently Anton is based on somebody that he knew from college. So, like, I don't know, it's just stuff like that. It's just funny to hear. And then they showed the map, and whenever I look at the map of the Trails universe, I get like goosebumps, because it's like, man, this is so cool that they created this map 20 years ago, and they've just been slowly over that course of time building out the story of this world. And I know we're getting close to the end. We're probably 70%, 75% of the way there, but and I don't want it to end, but like, in another sense, like, I'm excited for it to end so I can see how everything comes together, because I don't know, hearing him speak and like learning what I've learned about the series, it's just, I'm pretty confident that they know what they're doing. So I am excited to see it end, even though I wish it could go on forever if I can hold both those ideas in my head at the same time. Anyway, just amazing stuff. Really loved hearing from President Kondo so many times over the course of the weekend. It was just awesome. I checked out several demos at NIS America. I checked out the Trails Through Daybreak demo. And I will admit, like, at first, just kind of getting dropped into it without reading the directions on how to play, I was like, this is a little overwhelming, because it is very different. Like, it is the biggest change in core Trails gameplay that has ever been. Like, it's just crazy different. But it was, it was actually pretty fun once I got the hang of it. And now I'm playing it at home, and I've been through the tutorials, and so it's kind of like becoming second nature to me now. But it's just very cool, very different. And as I've said before, if you're new to the series and you're intimidated, people have been yelling at you that you have to start at the beginning or don't bother playing. It's like, don't listen to them. They want to control people. They just have this desire to control, and it's weird. Don't let people control you. You should start with Daybreak if you want. Start with Daybreak if you're interested in the series, and check it out. If you like it, you can go back and play the other ones, or you don't have to go back and play the other ones. You can just keep playing from there. It's fine. Do what you want. Live your life. You're good. Anyway, Trails Through Daybreak, very cool. I also checked out the Reynatus demo, and that is a new game coming from Furyu. And if you've been around this channel in the past, you probably know that I'm a big Furyu fan. They just make some of the most interesting games out there. Like, they don't have the giant AAA budget of some other studios like a Square Enix or what, they're not making Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but they are taking the budget that they have and they're really using it well to make these really cool, artistically creative experiences. And I'm just a huge fan of the sorts of stuff that they do. So, I mean, Crystar is one of my favorite games of all time from Furyu. So, and they're a great company. So when I saw Reynatus was from them, I was super excited. And I tried out the demo. The first time I tried it, I did not get it, and I did not really enjoy myself, so I was kind of like, oh, this kind of stinks. Like, I was hoping I would really like this. But the next day, I went back and gave it another chance, and this time I actually read the little card next to the demo kiosk. It's like, here's how to play the game. I probably should have done that in the first place. Anyway, reading the instructions, the game actually clicked with me pretty quickly. So that's, I don't know, PSA. If a game seems incomprehensible, pause a minute, make sure you know how to play it, and then give it another try, because otherwise you might end up missing out on an experience that you'll actually like just because something didn't click with you right away. Give it enough time to kind of work its way into you. And that's what I did with Reynatus. Really enjoyed the demo, and we did end up getting to talk about that a little bit at the panel. So let's talk about the panel. So Saturday morning, my wife Jen flew in from Chicago so she could be there to see the panel, which was really cool. So I met up with her and had lunch, and then made our way over to the panel room to get set up. Now, the two other panelists with me on this panel were David Vincent, of course, and Cam Hawkins, who was a writer, freelance writer for like IGN and a bunch of other places. Like he's got Bylines Everywhere. He's got a book on Kingdom Hearts coming out in the not too distant future, which I'm excited to read. And so they were two great guys to work with. Obviously, I already know and I've hung out with David before, so we already kind of had some rapport built up. Cam, I only just met at the convention, but I feel like we all were able to get into a pretty decent rhythm. So I felt like the panel went really well. I mean, you know, hopefully it did. I think people seem to enjoy it. The other thing that surprised, I think, all of us, or at least David and I talking about it later, is just like, I don't know, I personally expected maybe half capacity audience. Like maybe we fill half the room. And that would be great, because I know some panels, they're not going to appeal to the widest audience, and you want the people there that want to be there, right? Like you don't want to bore people, so if they're coming, you want them to be enthusiastic about it. But it was honestly pretty near capacity. Like there were a few seats here and there, but like it was pretty full. I think we were all pretty kind of blown away by that. So afterwards, getting a chance to chat with some of the people who were there, be able to, you know, provide some JRPG suggestions to people that were a little newer, talk a little bit about Fire Emblem, like just had a great time chatting with people and like making some connections with folks that had seen the channel or with folks who hadn't and were going to subscribe. Like it's just really cool to meet so many of you out there. I heard a theory from one person about the Grandmaster in the Trails series, and it like legitimately gave me goosebumps. I think he's right. Like he has this whole grand theory about Ouroboros and the Grandmaster and what's going on with everything in the Trail series. And as he was explaining it, I was just like, oh, like goosebumps, literally goosebumps. I was like, I think he's right. I think he might be right. So that was really cool to chat with him about that. And then this, I don't know how old she was. I can't tell how old kids are. 9, 10, 8, I don't know. Somewhere in the range of young, right? Came up and she had been in the panel, and she asked me if Genshin Impact was a JRPG, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I feel like that definitely is. And she was just it was just so sweet and cool. I don't know. It was just a really fun experience to chat with so many different kinds of people that all just share this passion for JRPGs. Just an incredibly cool experience. So yeah, I loved getting to meet so many of you, hopefully, who are watching this. And it was just so nice. You guys were all incredible. It was so much fun. Thanks again to NIS America for having me out. It was incredible. Like one of the best weekends of my life, and I'm not exaggerating. It was so much fun. Thanks to Emily and Ellie for putting up with me for the whole weekend as well. Hope you guys had a good time too. Once again, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, and if you were at Anime Expo, tell me what you did, what you thought down in the comments. I'd love to chat about it. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time. Bye.